Cool. So thanks for coming over, man.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. I like talking to people that I've either done gigs with or done a session or two with or just like met through the scene and respect and appreciate. And so you're a person that I definitely have a lot of respect for. I see you working, and stuff you're putting out is cool. It's totally different than what I'm doing too. So I'm excited to kind of get in and have the conversation, kind of jump into it. But can we just start? You just talk about kind of who you are and kind of what you're doing with music right now.
Okay. My name is Billy. I am a guitar player, engineer, producer. I'm from Maryland, Prince George's County. Primarily what I've been doing as of late is I've been producing music for just a plethora of different artists, mainly R&B, but I've done some like rock stuff recently that's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And playing guitar live, just in a whole bunch of different bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what are some artists that you're working with in the studio right now, and then what are some projects that you're working on as well?
Because I'm an engineer, I work with a lot of different artists, doing production and just engineering. But my man Project Santana has a really good album we're actually about to do some work on it today.
Nice.
My friend Micaiah has some really cool stuff coming out. She's about to drop pretty soon. Nice.
That's
Very
good.
blessed.
Yeah, I knew that you kind of you split studio and live time, and we'll talk about that
Exactly.
later. I got a question about that later, but so one thing I like to do to sort of get the conversation going. Today we're gonna kind of flip back and forth a little bit between talking about gear and then talking about non necessarily gear related stuff, more of approach or projects you're working on, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So from a gear perspective, really important question here. Okay, first one's big.
Right.
So let's say you get a call for a gig today.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the artist. It's generally your style, right? Something that you cover well. That's why you're getting a call.
Okay.
But so you can bring your guitar,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a backline amp there. You don't really know what it is, but it's probably something basic. We've all seen backline. That's both good and bad.
Right.
So you don't really know what you're walking into, right?
Uh-huh.
But you got your guitar, and you like me, you have a guitar case, gig bag, flip it on your back and go.
Mm-hmm.
You only have two hands. What are the two pieces of gear that you're bringing with you to the gig? And don't count a tuner, don't count cables, none of that stuff. You got
Okay.
But you got two pieces of gear to take with you. You don't really know what you're showing up to in terms of amplifier. You got two hands. That's it. What are you gonna take?
It has to be gear I own or any carte blanche. I can pick any gear.
I mean, I guess you want to stop at Chuck Levin's on the way. I didn't structure this question, but yeah.
I would love to have a Kemper. Yeah.
Just like in this scenario, I'm going for something. I'm
going for the Swiss Army knife. I'm getting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the piece that you're digging lately?
I played a Kemper in California recently, and I was sold immediately because of the versatility that it offers. Not just the live musician, but also the studio musician. Like, you can create a whole bunch of classic sounding tones, but you can also go to the outer reaches and create some stuff that like nobody's ever heard before and put on records. And I love that. Those are the type of pieces that I'm usually looking for.
I wonder why you got hot on that, because you started talking about the Kemper, and I was like, somebody's got the appetite for that.
Because I used it, but I wasn't using it in for a show, because I know it's a amp emulator, or it has impulse responses, so it can sound like anything, which is cool. But I used it in a studio application, and that's where it clicked.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that really started, having a lot of traction, because because it's not a guitar amp. It is not the same thing as,
No.
You plug, because I bring mine. I have the Kemper Cone. They're the speaker they work with Celestion on. I have it in a Mojo tone cab, and I take that with me to gigs. I have a nice Seymour Duncan power supply I use with it. It sounds great, So like live, I still have sound coming out of a cabinet at me, and it's great because I can, you feel it on stage.
Yeah, you get the feel. I mean? Exactly.
So my band uses in-ears primarily, and most of the gigs I do are with in-ears, but still, it's nice having, it on stage, having that kind of volume, being able to even like feel the low end come through. But that being said, the profiles I play most often are like a Fender black panel, like 60s Fender black panel style amp. So like a deluxe or something.
Okay.
From the
deluxe,
60s.
Yeah.
That's the kind of amp that I play, or like a super reverb type of thing. Typically, that's the type of profile I use in the Kemper. But if you set like a super reverb up beside of it in the same room, and you're just listening with your ear, you're going, yeah, that cabinet does not sound as good as the amp. My little dog's bothering you. That's hilarious.
No, that's cool.
Winnie, get out of here. Anyway, yeah, we have fans of the program that like to meander around here. But yeah, they're not the same thing. It's not like, to your ear you're going, the Kemper sounds like it's, it sounds produced, or it sounds just kind of off. It doesn't sound as good as the amp in the room. Like everybody says that, right?
Well, the amps are always gonna sound different because they, especially from that era, because even having two Fender amps together, they're gonna sound different from each other.
That's a good point. Yeah, so, that's true.
Like you're never gonna, unless you get the IR, which is something the Kemper can do.
Yeah.
Like it's just not gonna quite get there.
Yeah.
But I don't really care about that. Yeah. Like if you've ever had to carry a Fender or tube amp, any tube amp.
Oh, like Super Reverb's a great example. 4 10-inch speakers or whatever.
Upstairs,
right?
like no, it's for 2-3 hours. It's
or for a 30-minute set.
For a 30-minute set, what I mean? Like
yeah.
And then back downstairs, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to your car. It's just no.
Yeah. The answer is no. Yeah, it's a different thing, man. It's a whole signal chain, because what you're hearing is, you're not hearing a super reverb, you're hearing a super reverb mic'd up, usually with an incredible mic setup, like a Royer 121 and a 57 or something, or a Fathead and a 57 or something. A lot of stuff that I use are usually a pair like that. And then that's run through really expensive pre's that I can't afford, right? You know what I mean? And what you're actually hearing out of my cabinet live is the entire signal chain. You're hearing a studio signal chain.
Right, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even aware of that, but that even sells it to me more. Like that's what I would pick up.
That's why it sounds so polished, right? When you like come out of the XLR, you can go straight into an interface. And just
it's like, oh, that's the sound. That's what I was looking for. I don't have to process it. I don't have to do a whole bunch of extra stuff to get it to that level. It is what it is right there out of the box. And I'm like, that's something that appeals to me. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that you can definitely, I've played the Fractal. I know they sound great. I played the Helix stuff, and it sounds great too. I prefer. I haven't spent as much time with them as I have with the Kemper, so I'm certainly biased. So I've had my Kemper since 2017. Done literally like, I don't even know how many gigs, hundreds of gigs at this point, plus rehearsals, plus everything else. And I'm sold. It's awesome. So that's one. You still have another hand, like, because that thing's pretty light. Like you can carry that in one hand. So like you have another hand, dude. You
can do a lot.
You picked a winner. So
you can do a lot with the Kemper. You do so much with that. I don't even know if I would need anything.
You could bring like a LaCroix with you or something.
Yeah, I would have an extra hand, which would be, maybe my computer, like a laptop or something, just to do extra programming on the Kemper. But I wouldn't need much else. Nice.
I like that. Well, that's cool, man. So that's 2 hands. So you're only using one of them. First person I've talked to that only needs one. That's
I'm sold. I'm all the way in on gear that does more for less.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you. The Kemper does have, while we're on the topic, the Kemper has limitations. It has things that it does incredibly well, and then things where it can't do the exact same thing as a full analog setup, because it's not meant to. It's not the same thing. That being said, the one thing, and caveat to that is, if you look at my setup over there, the only The only thing you see on my board that's different is I have a bunch of analog pedals there.
There's a lot of
basically.
drive
Actually,
pedals.
not just analog. There's 1 or 2 digital pedals in there, but you know, I have stomp boxes outside of the Kemper. My rationale for that is it's not because, you know, I can't get the Kemper drive to sound good or anything like that. You can. Like, you know, all the presets, they basically have one overdrive that they have a bunch of presets for, or they kind of, you know, they've tweaked it, and it does a great blues breaker, does a great, the Klon actually is good, doesn't do quite the same thing. That's my biggest beef, you know, that kind of thing. But either way, would the crowd know the difference if I use a blues breaker, if I use my the Prince of Tone, or if I use a blues breaker in the Kemper? No,
Probably not.
no, I can guarantee they wouldn't. Guitar players in the crowd wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But for me, it just feels a little different. The reason I use analog drive pedals is, one, the Timmy that I have, I switch guitars when I play. I play a Les Paul style guitar typically, or a double humbucker, Telly style, you know, T-style Cower,
right.
or I play my Strat. And so the Timmy lets me kind of flip between those guitars. That's what I use to do that. Well, actually, I use the Kemper for that, but I also have multiple ways of solving that problem on there. I really have tried to get the Kemper to sound the same, and it just doesn't. I think there's just something about an analog pedal taking the signal from my guitar. I really like what the Klon circuit does in terms of
Clipping.
You know, yeah, the clipping it does. It's what it does with the EQ of the guitar. The stuff that it throws away and the stuff that it boosts, I really like.
Okay.
So, you know, I just found that there's no replacement for that. That being said, can you do gigs with just a Kemper? Absolutely. Have I done gigs with just a Kemper? Absolutely. You can totally do it, and it's all you need. That, and if I can have that, and you know what you should say for your second hand? Expression pedal.
That would probably be
like,
if anything else, just
like
an expression
I have
pedal.
the little mini Dunlop over there.
Right.
I use it for. I have it on the wah volume setting, so when I don't hit the wah effect button, which I have as a preset that kind of goes, it's in pretty much every performance I use. If it's not on, it's just a volume pedal.
Oh.
And when you kick the volume down, it turns your tuner on automatically, so you don't even have to hit the tuner button.
See.
So it's
That's all you really need is that.
Yeah.
I'm sold on that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great tool. I'm into it. So definitely get your hands on one. When you do, I can save you a bunch of time too. We can get together and nerd out on those. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome. So, all right. So that's kind of pedalboard gear. So let's talk about. I wanted to talk to you specifically about guitars. When I met you, it was for a Chiquete session like a couple years ago, 3 years ago or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know, 2 or 3 years ago. You were playing a cool guitar. Remember what it was?
I was playing some kind of Strat.
Nope. You weren't in the Strats yet.
I wasn't. What was I playing?
You were playing a Les Paul with P90s in it.
I was playing that. Wow, that was a while back.
Cool guitar though.
It was a cool Epiphone.
So I wanted to ask you, like, you know, what did you love about that Les Paul? What made you switch to a Strat? Kind of like, what's your, you know?
My ear has always been locked in on a Strat tone. I've realized, like, my earliest, like, guitar memories are Hendrix memories, so it's a lot of Hendrix that my dad would play. And
your dad played guitar, or like would just play it around the house?
My dad played a little bit of guitar, but he was a big Hendrix fan. So
Nice.
I've always realized that that's what my ear has been kind of tuned into. I like that specific Epiphone because Craig Ross plays something similar to that.
Yeah.
And Craig Ross is an amazing guitar player and with amazing guitar tone. I wish I still had that guitar. It was a really cool guitar.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite giving what I wanted it to give. And the Strat I had wasn't really quite getting me there either. And when I finally got this one, it clicked. Like, I was getting those neck pickup, like Mayer and Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of things. and then you pull it back to the bridge and you can let it fly from there. Like that's the sound I'm really into. I'm still not finished customizing it yet because there's still, I feel like the ultimate
We're getting down the rabbit trail quick.
The ultimate guitar tone combination I feel like is a Strat style guitar with a humbucker and a bridge that covers, I think, everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I realized that a lot of my guitar heroes were playing something very, very similar to that. If you look at Prince's guitars are very, very customized.
Yeah.
But if you look up the pickup combinations, and that's what I was paying attention to, it's a humbucker in the bridge and then a neck pickup, a single coil neck pickup.
Except for like were his tellies like that too?
His tellies were customized.
Okay.
So they looked like single coils, but I think they were
like stacked coils in there.
I'm pretty sure.
When I bought have you seen my Sunburst Strat? That's I love all 3 singles still.
Yeah.
Love that thing. It had the Jeff Beck noiseless pickups in it when I bought it.
Okay.
And they're noiseless because I don't like noiseless pickups really. I don't prefer them. They sound better than stock pickups sometimes. They're a different thing. I mean, they basically have 2 coils in them. So the Jeff Beck, now the thing was, the Jeff Beck noiseless set I had, so they were all basically stacked coils. That's how they would do the hum canceling. But the bridge was nice. The bridge was like thick. I mean, it was basically essentially a humbucker
in
design.
the bridge, exactly.
Yeah, and it was full and rich. So that's one exception where I'll take a noiseless pickup maybe in the bridge to kind of do that thing, but yeah, I prefer full sized. That's probably Prince if he had something that was like a
towards his later
I know nothing about his gear really. He didn't
play the telly all the way through. He was playing at one point whatever he could get his hands on.
But he's played all kinds of stuff over the years. He's played 335s and tellies and all kinds of stuff, strats.
But if he always goes back to a certain style of combination of pickups, it's usually a bridge, something in the bridge, a humbucker in the bridge, and a single coil neck pickup.
So yeah, I don't know a whole lot about. Yeah, I love how my dogs are just like running around in here right now. It's great. That's where the one naps. She's scared of storms, so she sleeps in my closet like most nights. But yeah, with Prince's stuff, he would kind of get his hands on everything. I mean, you've seen him play. You've seen him play like just about everything. But if he's coming back to that humbucker and the bridge combination,
it's a reoccurring theme. And
I'm comfortable with that too. So I get it.
But then, I mean, I just like the sound of a humbucker in a bridge. Like that's the sound of pretty much like 80s rock and roll.
So you went down the rabbit hole quick with your Strat. So you went to, all right, you like you probably got a bit like of a thinner and more kind of like focused. You were talking about like Mayer and Stevie, like who doesn't like the Mayer and Stevie kind of, neck and fourth position kind of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody loves that. So you weren't getting that from your P90 Les Paul.
Not even close.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. What a funny example I heard about this was, that the like, I don't know if you're a Pink Floyd fan. I'm not even a huge Pink Floyd fan.
I like certain things.
But Another Brick in the Wall.
Okay.
That solo. You know that solo? So David Gilmour primarily played a Strat. But he recorded that apparently on a Les Paul Jr. with P90s straight into the desk.
They were doing a lot of funky stuff back in the day.
Yeah. So like when you hear that, and it makes sense because you hear it and you're like, it's that. Well, first of all, it's Les Paul Jr. a lot different than your Les Paul 2.
Yeah.
But like the P90 in the neck, even in a Les Paul Jr., like kind of starts approaching that territory.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But there's nothing like. Yeah, I hear you. There's nothing like that Strat neck pickup.
It's the Strat Fender-ish amp combination that's just like it rings in my head, and that's usually what I'm looking for. I'm usually looking for that, and like something bigger and thicker in the bridge for that kind of 80s like stadium outside guitar tone. That's what I really like.
It's
massive big Guitar Hero sound. That's what I'm gonna go from, being able to do funk and like R&B into like 80s rock.
Dude, I'm totally with you.
That's my, somewhere in between there is my ideal guitar tone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've heard any of the videos. I try to post stuff here and there, but you know, my tone flip-flops between those two things a lot.
Exactly.
I do a lot of clean, funky Strat stuff, and then just big, crazy. I post one cool thing that, not going back to the Kemper again, but the one cool thing that it does, I think I posted a clip of us doing Stronger, Kanye. And I'm actually transposed. The Kemper is transposing me half step down.
Oh.
So I also do alternate tunings with
that's
in
crazy.
The Kemper, and it's just like, it's huge. It sounds great. But in there, I'll wait till you get one. I'll have to hook you up. Tell you like I've got the Slash signature Marshall amp that I use that I like a lot.
Right.
It's huge. It's great. It has that mid push that is just like, it's so ballsy. It's so throaty, and just like the mids are
focused
there.
Yeah.
It's focused, but it's not necessarily like plexi focused. It's meant to model like his modded JCM 800s. It's awesome. So I'll hook you up with that stuff. But with your Strat, so let's talk through this. So a lot of people, bring that over here. I want to show kind of. Oh yeah, you just gotta lift it up. That thing. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
That stupid thing. So this is a guitar, right? So a lot of people don't know this. They think I'm not a Strat person. I played a Strat once, or my friend had a Strat and I picked it up. I didn't like it. You said something. You said I had a Strat and it was okay, but then I got this one and it was like, all right, this is the guitar. So what was the difference between the two?
Probably just quality of build.
Yeah.
The first one I had, or the one I had for the longest before I got this one, was a Mexican Strat that I was just...
I remember this one, the copper colored one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still have it actually, and I was just running all kinds of like weird experiments on it, trying to figure out like, just, I don't know, just messing with it, because I knew it wasn't the guitar I was set on, but it was something that worked.
Yeah.
And I did some weird things. I think I put the middle pickup in backwards on an accident, just messing with it, and it got like this weird kind of like out of phase, kind of like the Peter Green thing.
Yeah.
Which was cool. I haven't done that to this one, but I don't know. And
it'll change your 2 and your 4 position though.
Exactly.
So you might not like it. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't using the 2 and 4 position a lot anyway. I mean, I was using the 4 with the out of phase tune, but I wasn't using the bridge. I didn't like the way the bridge pickup sounded in that guitar, so I wasn't even going all the way that far back. I was 5, 4, and 3. Yeah. And I would rarely ever use 3.
Right.
It was 5.
Not many people do. Peter Green's like 5. One of the only people ever.
Yeah.
That it's like one of the well-known guys that does that.
Exactly. So I was using 5 and 4 for the most part. And when I got this guitar, this is it's Fender Strat 60s series, classic series or something like that. But it's made in Japan. So
okay.
The build is
like one of their like 62 reissues or something that's made in Japan or something like that.
It's not even specific to it's not even specific to a year.
It's like a 60s
classic series Strat. And
yeah.
So I guess it's just an amalgamation of like the best qualities of 60 Strats.
Yeah. The neck on that guitar, full disclosure, I've had that guitar here for a while. Back when you got it, closer to when you got it, I think.
Yeah, you set it up,
messing around with it. Neck is amazing on that guitar.
It's one of the best.
If I could just find the neck, I would just buy it. Like if one of those necks pops up on eBay, or if anybody watching this has one of those and they want to let it go, you shouldn't let it go.
It's one of the best feeling guitars that I've ever.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I did the wrong thing. I bought it off of Reverb and I didn't try it out. I just liked the way it looked. and I knew I wanted a better guitar. I wanted to step up my guitar.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can totally go to a guitar store though and pick up 5 Strats.
And they all feel different.
And they're all different. Like they could be the same series and everything, and they're just gonna be different. So I hear what you mean. The thing is with the Japanese ones, they're so hard to find that if you want a made in Japan Strat, you kind of got to take a chance on it. I mean, one might pop up at Atomic or something. A couple Tellys popped up there a couple months ago. There were 2 red TL62s.
Okay.
And one of them had a Bigsby, which I don't like, and it was just not for me.
You know who was a big Bigsby fan?
Who?
Jeremy.
Oh yeah, I can see that though. With his style, that's like
he
perfect.
had a Bigsby on an SG that he used to play for years.
Yeah.
And he loved it.
See, that's not my thing.
And then he got a PRS.
Yeah. Well, he has such good vibrato in his fingers that he doesn't even need.
He doesn't, but he was using it for like the R&B, the
little just the shake, the fast shake. Yeah.
That's what he was using it for, and like I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeremy's like
I like guys. There are some guys out there that do those licks and will do. If you have your Strat set up to have your bridge floating, which I think yours is.
It's.
You can go up in pitch, right? On it.
I can go up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe like
half step.
Half step.
I think I have it set up for half step. Yeah. But you can flick it. You can flick the bar up and get some crazy
flutters.
Yeah. Some of those crazy vibrato flutters too. Yeah. But I know what you mean. There's something when you just find like my Strat, my big go-to is this guy. You're talking about humbucker Strats, like this thing, and it's all, man, I need to like polish it and stuff. It's gross. But same thing with this guitar. Like the thing is, if you go to put a humbucker in that Strat, be ready because it will change that guitar. So like my Sunburst one, I actually put Fralin vintage hot pickups in, and I love it, and I will not change those pickups out. I'm leaving it. It's great.
I was thinking about leaving this one and then getting the new Lettieri signature.
Yeah, the PRS, the Fiore.
Yeah, the Fiore. Yeah. Fiore, and getting the white one, and
I wanted the white one too.
Having that be the HSS combination.
You would just end up taking that to gigs though.
I would end up taking that to gigs, but sometimes I would want to play a Strat.
Yeah.
Just a regular Strat. But the other option would be James Valentine has a new signature guitar that's about to come out.
Oh, he has another one from
It's the same one, but I think they upgraded it. It's the Tremolo 2 or something like that.
Oh, so it's got a trem?
Yeah.
That was the one thing with it that it didn't have. And back then I thought I bought the parts and built this guitar.
Right.
I actually spec'd this neck out according to the Valentine.
That's interesting.
Because the Valentine has the most comfortable neck I've ever played in my life.
Really?
I fell in love with it. It was the rest of the guitar that didn't really work for what I needed. That neck is absolutely phenomenal. But I thought, oh, it doesn't have a trem, so I can't use it.
So you can't use it exactly.
Now I know that that's not true, and I was just bad at playing hardtail guitars. Seriously, because now, like, since then I've had a couple Telecasters. Like, I've had 2 or 3 Telecasters that I loved. Including the Cower I have now is hardtail, and I love it. And because I've worked on vibrato with my fingers a lot. You know what I mean?
That's something I should practice.
Yeah.
Getting that slow, smooth kind of, but also the fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing about vibrato. I feel like you always do it faster than you think you are. Like, I don't know. I try to do it with like a certain meter. I don't know. I always try to go slower than I think I need to. I don't know. But I loved it on... finally loved doing tellies, and I realized I was like, you know what? I probably could have bought the Valentine and been totally okay. I'd have been super happy, I'm sure. Because I loved how it sounded, and I loved how the neck played. But
it's an amazing guitar.
The new finishes are better, too.
And the new finishes are way better. They got some really cool finishes on those. And... like, as far as guitar specs go, I'm not really a guitar spec. I like what kind of pickup combination I like. but I don't really get too much more deeper into that. It goes based on like after a certain point, just like how it looks.
Yeah.
And what I enjoy looking at it and playing it.
There is something about that, like the way guitars look and the way pedals look is super important. I'm trying to get my thoughts together on that. I think I'm going to do a video on this guy at some point, because I've got this one and I have the neon one on my board, and so I don't know, they're exactly the same. They sound great. This one's been tried and true. I've had it for a few years and it's been great.
But that one looks cooler.
Yeah. Come on, you're like, I want to, like, if I'm going to turn one of these on, it's going to be that one.
It looks like a Skittle, bro. Like it just looks, yeah.
It's sweet. I want it in my signal chain. I want all of it. It's great. The lo-fi setting on there is low-key one of the best delay sounds I've ever heard in my life. I use it all the time. I use it on a lot of stuff. It's because that's a lot of their modulation effects get real crazy. Like they have this X knob, and a lot of times when I'm playing a lot of their pedals, the Julia included, I'm like down here on the X knob. I'm kind of between like 9 o'clock and noon. Dude, with the lo-fi setting, like turn the repeats up, crank the X up, and just like let them go. It's wild. It's a really great sounding delay. But anyway, yeah, that's for another time. But yeah, the Strat's awesome. So that's the one. So you got to decide if you're gonna change that guitar forever or not. You can always keep, get a new pick guard, which you're gonna have to do anyway. Keep the pickups and all of that. But if you go change, that's the weird thing about this guitar. When you kick to the bridge, I actually have a PRS humbucker in here. I have a 5708 in here, and it is a different animal. This guitar is seriously like Jekyll and Hyde now. The humbucker's crazy. The two position is nice and clear, but when you're just in the humbucker, I'm telling you, it is like a different guitar. And
that has the split?
It has a really good split. I'm not normally a fan of coil splitting, but I really, really like it.
Did you match the pickups? Because that's always been, okay.
I did not, but I kind of did. I mean, I did in terms of like output. That's what
I was at.
Yeah, this is a lower output. Like the Fralin humbucker I had in here originally, because these are Fralins, was like an 8.2K output.
Right.
So a little bit hotter than their normal one.
Right.
But because I wanted a pretty hot output. But it never. The thing is, it's not really a 1-for-1. Like generally, higher resistance pickups will have higher output generally, but there's a lot more to it in terms of like magnet strength and that kind of thing. So it's not always like, oh, this pickup is like 9K, so it's going to be way higher output than my single coils.
Right.
Maybe it will be, maybe not. So it just kind of takes trial and error. But the 57, I think it's 5708. It's got, the magnets are super strong.
Right.
So it's not a crazy high output humbucker. So it works. I just mean from a voicing perspective, the mids are a lot thicker, and it is like a totally different beast. But I love it, because that's kind of what I want this guitar for. Because the goal of building this was like, this is the guitar that I can play all night, and I can play everything on it. I can play Guns N' Roses down here, and I do.
That's
would I prefer to play my PRS for that, my like Les Paul style PRS? Yes, but then I don't have to change guitars, and I don't have to bring an extra guitar. So normally I bring a Tele style guitar as a backup anyway. But yeah, it's cool. All right, so let's change gears a little bit. I'm putting this thing down. I don't want to hold it. It is not light. I mean, it is not lightweight. That's the only thing, because that's a whole mahogany Strat. So it's like it's like 8.5 pounds.
Where'd you get the body from?
It's a Warmoth build.
It is a Warmoth. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I had it plucked and stuff when I put it together. It plays amazing. It's great. Mahogany neck too. So it's mahogany body, mahogany neck. It's pretty heavy, but it's great. So I don't want to sit on my lap because it's heavy. So tell me about Greenhouse Studio, okay? So what's your vision for what you're doing down there? Because you guys are obviously doing, I've seen some of your, like, you'll pull an artist in, cut some like live in studio videos and put those out. I've seen you're tracking artists, but then I've also seen you guys have like some rooms and spaces that people can shoot music videos and stuff. So what's the vision for what you guys are doing down there? And who is it? Is it just you? Is there other folks?
Okay, so towards the end of the pandemic, not even the end, like I guess we were still in the middle of it. Actually, around this time last year, one of my friends, an artist that I do a lot of work with, his project, whose album is coming out that we was just talking about previously, he called me and was like, bro, me and Rob is probably one of the best engineers in this area for like rap and R&B music. He said, come check out what me and Rob are doing. And he told me they were building a studio in Fort Washington. And when I went there, it was in like a warehouse space, and they were building rooms within rooms,
as it normally is.
And they had a vision for this space to be a multimedia creative space, kind of in a vein of a hip hop studio you might find, or a rap studio you might find in Atlanta or LA.
Okay.
Where everything can pretty much be done in-house. So
you're talking recording a single, bringing people in, doing collaborations, and music videos.
And you can shoot the album artwork. You can do everything all in one space. Okay. And I guess that was the original goal, is to kind of give the DMV, because this is a lot of this is based on Rob's perception, Rob's vision of what he saw while he was in LA engineering for some like bigger name artists. What we noticed, what the DMV was lacking, was exposure to a lot of higher end equipment. At least for the rap and R&B game. Like,
that is definitely true. There's plenty of studios around here. Like if you want to play kind of straightforward rock and roll, like there's a bunch of studios that are like guys that lived in that world or toured and did production for whoever, like for all kinds of artists that are around, and they have studios, but it's not geared towards hip hop artists at all.
No, it's not. Or you go to the hip hop studios, and it'll be a room, mic, and an interface.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the equipment might be decent, but it's still not a pro level setup. Like if you go to LA, that's not what those bigger guys, that's not what Kanye's cutting on, that's not what Jay-Z are cutting on. They cut almost in a very classic way. They use classic equipment, classic gear to get those sounds.
Yeah, a lot of analog preamps.
It's a lot of analog preamps. It's analog compressors. Like that's where the money goes. It goes into the mic signal chain. It's funny how technology has progressed, and you can do so much in the box, but like they're still using mics from like the 60s. Yeah. And they're rapping on them, but like there's nothing that really beats like a U87 going into a Neve style compressor. I mean Neve style preamp into a CL1A or a CL1B.
I don't know what any of this stuff is, so you can throw alphabet soup at me if you want to. Okay. I would just say that's
pretty much what our setup is. It's a warm audio 80 warm audio 87 going into a Neve style preamp. Okay. Which is the one that they use to cut like Pink Floyd records.
Neve is the classic like Rupert Neve. You know, he had a bunch of, if you don't know, go Google it. There's all kinds of stuff out there, but you know, he built some of the world's most famous consoles that cut some of the world's most famous records, including, you know, Beatles stuff at Abbey Road. And,
so this preamp was built to emulate the Abbey Road preamps that they have over there.
It's like if you played this is a guitar effect that can be used in studio too. It's got XLRs and ins and outs, but the JHS color box. Yes. Very similar. With like Wardall transistors in it and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's what the famous the Beatles Revolution. Yeah. John plugged the guitar straight into the desk.
Yep. That's as they did.
Just cranked the preamp up, and that's how they got that sound.
Yep.
So we use that signal, we use that preamp, and then we go to a CL1A. Not a CL1B, a CL1A, which is a little bit rarer, and it's an optical compressor, I believe.
Yeah, I got you.
And it sounds a little bit different.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, I like optical compressors. There's not as much. It doesn't color as much. It doesn't necessarily squash as much, or at least you have more. You can really squash it still, of course, but like for me, it was a little bit more natural. Still let things breathe a little bit more.
You can let things breathe, and you can squash it crazy. But we noticed that a lot of studios didn't invest in that kind of stuff. They invest in lights, or they color the room, and they get really big monitors.
Yeah.
And then you look at the signal chain, and it's literally a mic, a preamp, and a MacBook.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, so we're gonna step that up. We're gonna build a studio that where you can. It's a hip hop R&B focused studio, but you can cut. If you have the right person in there, you can cut R&B records. You can cut like traditional R&B records.
So if they have you in there.
So if they have me in there, yeah. As somebody who knows like what the sounds are and how to get those sounds, you can cut rock records, you can cut R&B records, you can cut funk records, you can do go-go, you can do everything in this studio.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's what I feel like the initial goal was, is to get.
That's cool.
An all-purpose studio for the DMV with a really high quality sound for a.
Your prices are affordable. Like
affordable price.
It's not awful. You know? It's probably a good thing though, because you know, it's not a cheap room, but the thing is, like, you're kind of getting the people coming into that room who are serious and believe in what they're doing and put their money where their mouth is.
That's specifically what they've tried to curate. With the personnel that they've brought in, a lot of those guys are killers. They're guys who are either getting placements now, because a couple of them are producers,
right? And
they're producing a lot of the rap that's around here, or they're engineering for bigger named artists. One of the guys who's on the team is Rico Nasty's engineer. He's on tour with her right now. We have guys who cut with Brent Faiyaz, or some of the ASAP Mob, and like Rob does Shy Glizzy stuff all the time. Like, we have dudes in there who are really,
they know how to do it. Yeah,
they know how to do it, but they're also very kind and like reserved and chill guys. They don't have the egos that like some of these other guys in these studios have. After you get a little bit of exactly. So I like the direction we're going, and like I said, we've only been open for a year, and we already have a lot of motion.
Yeah,
just doing what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's cool. Are you doing the Chiquete stuff down there, or are you guys tracking that stuff?
We did a little bit of guitar there, but Chiquete's been pretty much doing his stuff in his house.
At his house, like the last one, yeah.
Not even he hasn't even had the whole squad with him. It's pretty much been him.
He's been working it.
He's just been working it. Excuse me. He's got some kind of project coming out pretty soon, and he's been, like I said, he's been working that stuff pretty much by himself.
Yeah, he's got the vision for it. You know, I get it. That's cool.
Excuse me. Yeah, man. Like, I'm realizing a lot of. I don't really want to say there's a problem with DMV music, but there's just a lack of exposure to higher end production. I don't know, like in trains of thought, that if you go get that exposure and bring it back, you can do a lot more.
I grew up around kind of smaller scene, so around Harrisonburg. You know, it was small enough of a scene where, you know, I was actually, drums were my first instrument. So as a drummer around there, you know, when a band needed a fill-in guy or something, or they were starting a new project, it was, call that guy, right? There's a handful of us. And so I thought I was like hot stuff, you know, at like 18 years old, you know. And then I went off to college, and I studied at VCU, and I was doing both. I was doing my management technology stuff that I ended up getting my degree in, but also was studying jazz performance. And so I got into the music school there, and I thought I was hot stuff. And then ended up, you know, getting lessons with a pretty well-known instructor, and just being around other musicians down there. Dude, these guys, you went into some of these combo jam, like jazz combo jams or whatever, and these guys were eating my lunch. Like, it wasn't until I got exposed to, like, oh, you think you can come down and play jazz, or, you know, then you see some of these
some
guys.
Head busters, yeah.
And so I think part of the issue you might be talking about in a similar way, it was the same thing, you know, when we went to Nashville and recorded the record with my original band, all that stuff. We recorded our 6-song EP and our single down there, whatever. it's not until you actually get into that kind of studio and do the photo shoots the way they're supposed to be done, and do the pre and post production the way it's supposed to be done, and all that stuff, that like your eyes are open to like, oh, this is how you cut a record. So maybe you think it's just like a lack of exposure to that kind of stuff, like, or what do you think the issue is?
The industry's not really here. The main business in the DMV, not the main business, but the economy is derived of like government hands out contracts. Yep. And those contracts go to corporations, businesses, even local smaller businesses get government contracts in it. That's what the economy, at least around here, is pretty much derived off of. It's not like Los Angeles or Atlanta.
Yeah, where there's some entertainment.
Where exactly. Or, yeah. Those are like entertainment hubs for a reason. Even Nashville, where you go there and you see people with big houses, and they're not just government contract workers, or they're former military personnel. Right. There might be some of that down there, but like this guy might be a producer, right?
He might be some guy that worked at a label and made a bunch of money way back.
Exactly, but it's the fact that he's in the entertainment industry. You don't really see a lot of those people around here. And
so that's cool, man. So part of what you guys are doing is being able to provide some of that experience and some of that exposure, and kind of bring it here and show people like, here's how you cut a single. Like, if you just want to have somebody come in and just do one song, like, here's how you cut a single. You know, here's the way that you do the artwork for it, and kind of do all that in house. I think that's pretty cool.
That's what we try to give people, and we try to give it to a full encapsulating experience, but we also try to give it to people for like a reasonable rate, and we're not try to hit people over the head crazy.
Not killing people. Exactly. I hear you. That's awesome. Well, man, I know your allergies are killing you. I'm gonna give you like one more question. All right. Yeah. I know. One of us had to have bad allergies today. It's not me. But so you know, you obviously love performing live, right?
I do.
You do with a bunch of bands around here, right?
I do.
So you want to shout out any of them?
I haven't been playing in a lot of bands as of recently. I've had to dial
COVID kind of. Oh yeah, with the studio stuff.
No. It's not even COVID. It's the fact that I was doing. My attitude has kind of changed around live performance. I love to do it, but I really want to be in a role of directing.
I got you.
So I want to create the arrangements from the ground up. And work hand in hand with the artist to provide an actual experience as far as the show is concerned.
Yeah. So that's like
just getting called to do like hits is cool, but I want to have more of a hands-on.
I hear you. You want to be a producer?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. That is literally the answer to my last question, pretty much, which is I was gonna ask, like, I know you play out live a lot, playing with a bunch of bands. I know you do a lot of studio work. What do you want to do long term? Like, it sounds like that might be the answer. You know, it's like your passion sounds like it's kind of
the real answer is definitely production. But I love playing live. So if I could be, my goal is to be in. There's a couple producers that I really respect. D-Mile is one. D-Mile's in LA. He's from Brooklyn, I believe, but he's in LA right now. D-Mile is an amazing musician. His primary instrument is bass, but he can play keys. Bass players know.
Bass players are dangerous.
Yeah, bass players are dangerous. They can play everything. So he's a bass player, but he does all the work for Lucky Day. He does a lot of Victoria Monet's. He's actually
very cool.
The producer on the Silk Sonic stuff.
Really?
Yes.
Woo.
And
well, we all know how that turned out.
Exactly, and that their album is coming out pretty soon too. And
was he working with Pac before that, or like was that? How did he get in? How did he get that?
He's just been in the. He's went on a run, starting probably back. You familiar with Lucky Day? Mm-hmm. So you know the song Roll Some More?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so him and Lucky Day were on. Quick story about them. He was on his way because he's been in the industry for about 20 years. He's done records with Mary J. Blige, Janet Jackson. He just never crossed that threshold of getting that hit. He was getting ready to quit. He was discouraged. Lucky Day was on his way. He had been in the industry, bounced around a couple places.
Right.
they were both in kind of like a purgatory state, and they were like,
well, it's just not a whole lot of momentum.
let's do what we want to do.
Rosemore's awesome.
It's an amazing song.
I love that groove, and it's got that it has like that standard like kind of cross stick kind of, you know, that really comes from a lot of old soul. Like it almost has like
it's funny,
you know,
it sounds old. But that's his vibe. Like it's a cross between things that sound old and things that sound contemporary.
Yeah,
he's like he studies old R&B, like he knows it, and you can hear that.
I mean, there's old even before that. Like there's some like, you know, Al Green drums.
Stuff,
I was gonna say that's
stuff,
what the drums in that remind me of. That little like just cross stick kind of easy going 60s soul thing, and it's so good. But the guitar does not sound 60s. The guitar's got that washed out nice rhythm thing.
But it's the combination of both of those elements that give it that vibe.
Oh, it's so good.
And he is somebody.
Oh, it's got the little. Oh, it has those really sorry, I'm interrupting you. Those really ambient, the little like guitar sides.
Those aren't.
I don't know what
it's a sample. I saw him break down the record. You can see the breakdown of Rosemore on YouTube.
They got some crazy ambience on it.
He picked the right sounds because he's been producing for however many years he's been producing, and he knows that production is really about getting the sound, getting the right sound
for the find the right puzzle piece for that.
Exactly. Whether it's playing it out or going through your sample library and actually finding whatever that sound is that you're hearing, whatever that missing element is, and dropping it in. That's what production is really about. So I respect him a lot, and I respect Adam Blackstone a lot. The person who I want to emulate my career off of would be Steve Lukather.
Oh yeah.
Because Steve is the person who I feel like who gets it. Like, he's an amazing guitar player. He has all the jazz background.
Yeah.
He was a Larry Carlton, I think is his guy. His
I have no idea.
That's where his jazz stuff comes from. But he also has the Hendrix background. If you want to make a living playing an instrument, I feel like Steve Lukather is the guy you should be looking at.
Looking at emulating, yeah.
He has his own signature guitars that sell crazy.
Are sweet. I want the double humbucker one,
and he has a Grammy award winning band that he can take out and tour whenever he wants to.
I remember Tim Pierce talking about Steve Lukather, him learning how to play studio. He was a great lead player when he moved to LA,
right?
But he learned how to play rhythm parts from
Steve
listening
Lukather.
To Steve and watching Steve and talking to Steve.
Production and touring. That's what I want to do. I want to make a living.
You want to be able to say, "I want to do this," and go do it. You don't want to be tied to the road.
No. I know. I'm aware of guys who are doing that. I'm aware of guys who just stay at home like Tim Pierce and just like cut. You know, I want to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Produce an artist and then take that out on the road and do the whole show.
I think you're doing the right thing. Like, one of the best pieces my dad ever told me a long time ago, because I wanted to be a great drummer at the time. I was probably 12, 13. My brother played guitar, and I was like, you know, I want to play guitar. I want to start playing guitar, and you know, I started playing when my dad put drumsticks in my hands when I was probably 3. I got my first drum kit at like 4 years old for my birthday. Before we moved into our townhouse, and you know, my family didn't have a lot of money, but before our bedroom even had like furniture in it, I shared a bedroom with my 2 brothers.
Right.
Like, before we had like all that stuff set up, I had like a little drum kit in the corner.
That's cool.
They
man.
gave me for my birthday when I turned 4. But my dad told me by the time I got to like 12, you know, he gave me the whole jack of all trades, master of none speech.
Right,
you know,
right.
And but you know, and some of that's like, obviously, if you want to play multiple instruments, you can, but it does take focus to get good at something. You know what I mean? It does, and to get motion and to like really do something well, you do got it. There's no substitute. There's no, you know, cheap, quick way to get great. You know,
you got to sit down with it. But I feel like the trick to that master of all, a master of none thing, that whole
I'm still a master of none. Probably,
but the whole trick of that is you got to find the pieces that intersect. Like, somebody might tell you to focus on one instrument, but you want to play a whole bunch of instruments. You got to focus on the thing that all intersects is music. So a C chord on a guitar is a C chord on the piano. They're the same thing. Is a root C on the bass. You just gotta find where they all fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same thing. So you just gotta. A C major triad is a C major triad wherever you play it, whenever you play it on.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus more on where the music actually intersects instead of focusing on the differences,
yeah,
I think that's what the key is to like sitting down and practicing on multiple different instruments. If you know you can practice C major 7 arpeggios on the guitar, then try practicing the C major arpeggios on bass.
Yeah, that's true.
And then playing like on keys or playing it on saxophone or something like.
Or what happens when I play a C, put a 7 in the bass? It's like that might not be what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
Unless maybe I'm trying to do some sort of transition, walk down something. But you start messing with it. That's true. That is true. Yeah, I think I was like probably 12 at the time, and Dad gave me that whole speech. And so I picked up my brother's guitar once in a while, but I really did focus on playing drums. Right. I came home from school every day.
But that's what you wanted to get good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. But there was a time when I was like, I still had that desire to play guitar, and he's like, you know what we should do? He's like, let's get you a bass.
Okay.
And so, because I was a drummer, he was like, it would really help you to understand this relationship. Yeah. And so I did, actually, all throughout, that was 7th grade, I think, 7th or 8th grade, all throughout high school, I played bass. To the point where I was playing in jazz band. I played jazz combo in concerts. In my high school, I was blessed, had a great music program.
Wow, that sounds like a great program.
We had not just a jazz audition ensemble, we had jazz combos as well.
Right.
So I played bass for the jazz combos and then played drums for the big ensemble.
Jeez.
For the big band, which was, man, it was such a blessing. But yeah, the big thing was I think learning the relationship between bass and drums, the commonality, like you're talking about.
Right.
There's a lot of overlap there. I think part of what you're saying too is by picking up a bass guitar, I may not have been becoming a better drummer, but I was becoming a better musician.
You are.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I was just saying that to commend you. I think it is wise though right now that you're kind of saying I don't have time to be taking these one hit gigs here and there. I need to focus and be in the studio.
Exactly.
I think that's wise of you. Sounds like that's a good approach for now.
That's gonna be my approach at least for the rest of this year. Is just kind of stay in the studio or stay practicing at home, because the things that I do, the type of gigs that I want are ones where my favorite musicians are musicians who play multiple different instruments. So if that's
Prince.
It
Prince. All comes back to
It's Prince, but it's also Trent Reznor. Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, who I love. Trent can play everything and he can program everything.
I can see how you'd really dig them from a production perspective.
I love Nine Inch Nails. I'm a big fan of 90s rock in general, and I loved Nine Inch Nails.
Smashing Pumpkins, that kind of stuff.
Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan can play multiple things, but Trent is somebody who composes everything, much in a similar way like Billy Corgan, but Trent plays, keys and everything. Keys, guitar. Who else? Prince, Trent Reznor, Mike Dean. Mike Dean is amazing.
Who's Mike Dean?
Mike Dean is Kanye West's engineer and producer.
Okay.
Mike Dean, I don't know if you've listened to any Kanye's recent albums.
Yeah.
But Kanye has this whole synth element.
Yeah.
That's been
I'm very familiar with
prevalent in his music since probably late registration or graduation. Definitely on 808s and Heartbreak, and from 808s on, it's been super heavy since.
That stuff. Yeah.
Mike is the genius behind. He's another engineer, but Mike can play everything keyboard wise. You should look at Mike Dean. He's amazing.
That makes sense because all that stuff's brilliant. He's learned how to do synth, but it's a synth part and it has this place in the mix. This is the role that it plays.
But Mike mixes everything.
Yeah. So he's he's writing the parts with the production,
and then he produces it, and then he mixes it, and then he masters it. Mike does everything, and then he can take it on tour. He can play it on tour. Mike Dean. Mike is responsible for the Ghetto Boy sound.
Really?
Mike is responsible. He did some Selena stuff back in the. He's been in hip hop.
Who else was yeah? I was
since the 80s.
Who's the Ghetto Boys dude? That he was like a boxer too.
Oh, Willie D.
Willie D. Yeah. Willie. Well, I've listened to Willie D a bunch. Just different interviews and stuff, and yeah, they have a really interesting story, that band. So Mike Dean was around back then.
Mike Dean was around back then, and Mike Dean, because Mike Dean is from Texas, and Mike Dean plays the guitar. Mike Dean plays all the synths on all the Kanye stuff. Those sweeping classical arpeggios, cascades, movements, all those things. That's Mike Dean.
Okay.
But then he can do like crazy outside, super distorted, almost 9 Inch Nails style industrial production. Definitely. He has all these different flavors and ranges, and that's what I try to be as a producer. I try to produce for whatever the context of the music is. That's where I try to go. I want to have as many touch points and references to as much music as I can.
Loving music in general, like continuing to listen to stuff. Pull out old records that you have had forever and put it back on again.
I did that with Hendrix recently. He was so far ahead of his time that it took maybe like 20 years, 30 years for people to catch up.
Yeah. Sure.
Whenever Stevie Ray Vaughan started playing like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Stevie, I read his autobiography when I was a kid. He was kind of an arrogant dude. He was good and he knew it. You know what I mean? And he would talk about, like, one of the reasons why he wanted to play Voodoo Child was apparently so he could prove he could do it better than Jimmy did. Which is crazy, because you also see at times where he's given Hendrix praise. You know what I mean? For and giving him respect. There's other accounts where he's going, I did this to show I could do it better. But yeah,
I don't even think he was
so late.
He was trying to. You think he was? I don't think he would ever try to outdo Hendrix, but there's people around him that he would try to outdo.
Like, definitely.
He was definitely trying to outdo his brother.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Him and Jimmy had a whole thing.
Him and Jimmy had a whole thing, and like, if there was anybody he was trying to show up, it would be Jimmy.
That was also because he was playing Jimmy's guitar in the closet, and Jimmy would come home and find him and beat him up.
Yeah, beat him up, but that's just older brother, younger brother stuff.
That literally happened to me.
Exactly. That's just older brother, younger brother stuff. But like, if you have that younger brother syndrome, and your brother is great, and your brother is well known and famous and a local, you just want to.
If he wasn't, who knows? Stevie probably wouldn't have been as great.
Stevie was definitely pushed because his brother was already that dude.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, you're Jimmy's brother. All right, cool. So you can play, right?
He didn't want to be Jimmy's brother.
Exactly. You want to be Stevie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to take some of that and figure out how I can learn and be a lover of music more this week. Continue that pursuit, because I think that's. Yeah, you just gave me some ideas of some things I probably need to do, some things I need to listen to, some things I need to.
You know what's cool? Like you just said, bro. Like, listen to the things that you already liked, and you just haven't like put on your favorite records and go
revisit
through them.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, there's things that want to pick up from Herbie Hancock as far as like chording and stuff that I'm looking at and I'm practicing now.
Mm-hmm.
As far as bass playing, Derek Hodge is my favorite bass player. I love Derek Hodge. Him and Robert Glasper are a tandem that.
Oh yeah, that's straight power, dude.
It's powerhouse.
Yeah,
they cover so much ground dynamically when they when they lock in. Those are the guys I'm starting to get into a little bit more, like a little bit more fusion stuff. You know who has a lot of fusion music that people don't listen to? Prince.
That's true. Yeah,
Prince's early demos when he first got in with Warner Brothers is a lot of jazz fusion, like,
and they didn't know what to do with it either.
Late 70s jazz fusion, like Mahavishnu Orchestra and like Weather Report.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Like jazz funk. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool, because you start to see. I mean, yeah, I would love to. I think we'll continue to get Prince releases over time, because that man was insane. He would come off stage on tour at night, go to a studio that he knew that was near there, and he would just cut.
Yeah,
he would just cut tracks until the wee hours in the morning, sleep all day, get up and do it again. Like, that guy was, along with everything else he was doing.
By all accounts, he didn't really sleep either.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at his schedule and go, I don't know how that dude slept, but
because he would go home and
it's
then,
awesome.
like, write something new and then bring that to the studio later on.
And do it on whatever instrument. He'd write it on piano.
Hey, I wrote this song.
Guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, my big thing is if you look at my record collection, it's not huge, but I have a lot of live records.
Right.
I love, trying to focus on being a live musician.
Right.
I think the best lesson you can learn from listening to a bunch of live records from musicians that you love. I've got a couple Stevie live records.
Right.
I've got his Montreux here. I've got a bunch of them. I have
which
Radio
Montreux?
City Music Hall here.
Which Montreux? First
He
and second?
did 82 and 85, I think, or 85 and 88 or something like that.
Whatever the first one was is my favorite.
You know what one of my favorites is? Live at Omo Combo.
That's Jeremy's favorite.
I had that. My dad had that DVD in like the early 2000s.
Right.
And I like wore that.
Blown away.
Yeah. He's a little bit of an exception because that whole Elmo Combo, that whole double trouble set. It's all trio. There's no organs or anything.
He was
early.
on fire.
It was crazy.
He was on fire that night.
Yeah.
On fire.
Yeah, he absolutely was.
And like, watching it 13, you're like, wow, this is really good. Watching it as a musician now, you're like, yo,
that's my
he was tapped in.
Yeah, for sure.
He was locked. They were locked as a unit. We're locked in.
Absolutely.
And trying to get to that level is what we should all aspire to.
Yeah, and that album's a bit of an outlier. That's not a good point for the point that I'm trying to make, because it's so good that it's like, that's like the pinnacle of like, that's your aspirations. Like, I want to be able to do that one day. But I think when you listen to a lot, like the record that I just got that I've only listened to like once that I want to put down some more is I have a Grand Funk Railroad live album that I just got.
Grand Funk Railroad. They have one looking through the out window. It's one of their singles, and that's an amazing performance on YouTube. I like Grand Funk.
Yeah. So when you look at their live stuff, though, if they're a trio. And they're doing a lot of the stuff is like, it's not that like the songs are really good, but I think it's, at least for me, I'm always I got to get out of my own head. I'm a bit of a perfectionist sometimes, where it's like you don't have to play everything exactly. You're never going to be able to exactly 100% prepare for that gig. You just never know what's going to happen on that day. You need to prepare as best as you can. Learn the songs inside and out, where the parts are second nature. You're not thinking about what part to play. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're thinking about the performance. You're interacting with the band. You're looking around. You got to think about that stuff. When you listen to those records, you go, the execution is not like musically. It is not. They're not playing all those parts exactly perfect. No. But the performance is amazing. And like, that is the major lesson from a lot of those records. So I listen to them, like, first of all, being able to play those parts live and sing that stuff at the same time is nuts. But also, dude, sometimes you just got to get out there and do it. Like, you can't sit around and wait till till everything's perfect.
I love live performances as well. I'm just thinking about all of my favorites. You're absolutely right, bro. Like, you can't. There's certain ones where it's almost like watching an out-of-body experience. Like, I was telling Jeremy the other day, the performance that got me into guitar was Hendrix at the Monterey Pop Festival. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the 67 joint. Mm-hmm. That blew my mind as like a 13-year-old. I was like, whoa, that's pretty much what I want to do. Yeah. That's one of my favorite live performances. 9 Inch Nails at Woodstock is one of my favorite performances.
I've not seen that.
That's an incredible set.
I didn't know you were that into that alternative stuff. That's cool. I get it now. Talking to you from a production perspective, that totally makes sense. All
of after I was into Hendrix, I got really, really into Nirvana and Pearl Jam and the Chili Peppers, like all the 90s rock. My brother and I have like a massive 90s rock. You ever
into like STP and that kind of stuff too? Or did not go that far?
I didn't go. Because
that was more like the 80s stuff that was catching up to grunge. You know what I mean? STP kind of continued to
if you look at all those bands, bro, those bands are pretty much like hair metal bands. Like it's funny that there is a separation between them.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at their interviews and who they listen to, who their influences are, maybe the Seattle guys listen to more underground punk rock.
Right.
But the LA guys were listening to underground LA metal.
Right.
Or they were listening to imports from like Hanoi Rocks or like Swedish imports of like, you know what I'm saying? But like there's so many common points. Like they all like the New York Dolls, they all like the Stooges, they all like Led Zeppelin, they all like Black Sabbath.
That's very true.
They're pretty much they're the same band, except for not the same band, but they from at least from a black person's perspective, it's like that's a hair band and that's a hair band.
Like they listened to Motley Crue. They wanted to be Motley Crue years later, and like Motley Crue's still going, but
you see them now, and they hang out with each other. You just think it's kind of silly that it was so tribal back then. Nirvana didn't want to hang out with Guns N' Roses because Guns N' Roses was like a LA industry band, but Guns N' Roses
they started out. I mean, they had a punk rock bass player, but
when they were from the street too, so it's
absolutely.
It's just like, what do we like? The tribalism was so weird.
They started by doing what they wanted to do and sticking it to
yeah, but it's just funny that then suddenly Nirvana comes out and now we're sticking it to them, and
yeah
it's just weird. But like if you look at it from like a black person's perspective, like at the same time as Nirvana and or Guns N' Roses going at it, you have like Jodeci and like Biggie and Jay-Z are all on the East Coast, and they're like, bro, I just need a shot. Like these hair metal bands, whatever they want to call it, whether they want to call it grunge or like LA metal, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all the same.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I looked at it. I was just like,
right, I hear what you're saying. Not that every band's exactly the same.
No. Like there's a difference between like Warrant and Nirvana.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's I mean, even within grunge, there's a huge difference between Soundgarden and Nirvana.
There's a huge,
you know what I mean?
Between Mudhoney and like Soundgarden. There's a huge difference. But I
hear
love,
what you're saying.
I love,
it's a little funny, a little silly.
It's
when you look
so
back.
silly because they all look the same. These guys are just with like ripped jeans, but like ripped jeans in a different way.
Studded jackets,
exactly.
And a little more patches, maybe a little,
Yeah,
whatever.
but it's like it's silly.
That's funny, man. Well, hey, thanks for sitting down with me talking music. I gotta have you back over. There is an episode that I want to do. I want to do a video, talking about strats.
Okay.
I want to like literally, talking about the Kemper. One amazing thing we can do with it is literally plug it into my interface and just swap out guitars, tweak, mess with stuff without mic and amps.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
I do want to do. I'm putting together an idea of something I want to do on Strat. What we love about them and how they're different, because every single one is. I think there's 3 in the room right now.
Wow.
And there's one on the way. And there's one going out the door. But there's 2 that are like never leaving ever. But they're all different. And I use them for different things, and because I think there's a misconception with a lot of people. A lot of folks go, I get the Strat, but I've tried it and it's not my thing. I don't get why so many people play it. I'm like, because there's a Strat for everybody.
There is a Strat for everybody.
There's a Hendrix Strat. There's a Kenny Wayne Shepherd Strat.
But you just gotta find your Strat.
There's a Butch
sound.
Walker Strat. There's a
but like all of those people have different sounds
completely.
And like
and all these Strats in this room have different sounds.
But you just gotta find whatever your Strat sound is to get it to that.
Maybe
level.
That's the new mission of this channel. It's just gonna be to get a Strat in everybody's
convert
hand.
everybody to a Strat player, just different incarnations of it. Yeah.
Hey, that's a worthwhile mission in my book.
It is.
But
I love the Strat, bro. That Strat is my favorite guitar.
Yeah, man. Hey, but thanks for being here with me. And have fun in your session tonight.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time, bro.
Yeah.